Well, welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And obviously, the hot button issue is the overturning of Roe versus Wade, giving the states the opportunity to vote on it, and kind of giving it back to the legislatures of all these different states. Dr. Lopkin, your initial thoughts on that?
Well, I've said numerous times on this podcast, I am pro-choice. I'm disappointed by the decision, but not surprised. While I don't like the idea of the government telling people that, no, you cannot have an abortion, legally, I completely understand it. And actually, the justices were correct. What most people don't want to talk about is the fact that the pro-choice movement, back when Roe v. Wade was passed, basically they spiked the ball on the 10-yard line and never crossed the goal. After Roe v. Wade, Congress needed to take this up and codify it, and for 50 years they failed to do so. So now it goes back to the states. So far, I believe 25 states have already had trigger laws that protect the right to an abortion. But I am absolutely appalled at the lies coming out of Democratic politicians.
Are you
And
surprised at that?
I'm not surprised, but I'm appalled.
Okay, that's good. I agree with that. Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, surprise is one thing, appall's another. Yeah.
Yeah. The fact is, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was talking about this for years, and Democrats chose not to listen to her because as long as Roe v. Wade was in danger, it was a great fundraiser for them. And now we've got violence erupting all over the country. Ironically, most of the violence is actually in states that have already protected abortion. So I think that's going to go badly for them.
Well, yeah, the only thing I would say is some polls, generic polls, now have Democrats ahead in a generic congressional. I'm not really that big of a believer in those. I don't think they really mean anything, but it did swing the Democrats' way. I think that it's the only thing the Democrats can possibly have for the midterms. That is their one-trick pony. And
they are hanging their hat on it.
It's over.
Yeah, they are hanging their hat on it. I don't think it's going to work out. Democratic operatives, now these are the folks that are actually on the ground running political campaigns, have said they expect Roe v. Wade to be able to save them 5 to 10 seats. Now, they're expected to lose 40 to 60 seats. So that's not too much of a save for them, primarily because the people who are most vocal about saving Roe v. Wade and abortion rights are in states where the Democrats were going to take those seats anyway.
Well, I'm not really concerned. I never was concerned. And even after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, I wasn't really concerned about the congressional situation. I am very concerned about the senatorial. You had Walker in Georgia is now 10 points, I think, behind his Democratic, the person he's running against, a Democrat who's already in. So I don't know. To me, what the latest readings I'm getting is the Democrats, the Republicans should take 3 senatorial seats. I think it's imperative because we need both houses in order to blunt any more damage from Biden. It's that serious.
Yeah, I think Roe v. Wade is going to be a big sticking point for the Democrats. They're going to hang their hat on it, but it's not enough. When people go to the gas pump every week and see those prices, when they go to the supermarket every week and see those prices, and by the time the election comes up, most of the state legislatures will have already put in place their abortion laws. So abortion laws in states that, that end up restricting abortions, those are heavily red states. They're not going to go Democrat. States that protect abortion, they're generally heavily blue. They were never going to go Republican anyway. So
It's your purple.
it's the purple, and that's where, the 5 to 10 seats might come in. There's still going to be a red wave, and the Democrats are still expecting a red wave. And we know that from the ridiculous amount of spending that they are doing in Republican primaries to try to eliminate the stronger candidates.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Horrible strategy, but obviously a strategy of desperation. But there's good reason that they should be desperate. A poll, now this is, again, Ripley's Believe It or Not, 78% of Democrats believe that the country is going in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
no, not everyone. 78 of Democrats.
Yes, 78% of Democrats believe it's going in the wrong direction. Now, unfortunately, if you dig into that poll, those 78% don't agree on the direction it should be going in.
I got that, but it still does not bode well for Biden or the Democrats. About enthusiasm at the polls, you don't get enthusiastic voters, no matter if they think it should be liberal to conservative. It doesn't. They don't have the excitement.
No, they don't have the excitement, and in fact, in just the last several days, both Governor Newsom from California and AOC from New York have floated the idea of primarying Joe Biden in 2024. Now, I would love to see Gavin Newsom primary Biden, because I can see the commercials already. It's like runaway homelessness, crime out of control inflation, and now Gavin Newsom wants to do to America what he's done to California.
I would agree with you in a national election, but with the crazy Democratic constituency, he could beat Biden, and I think he is thinking about running.
As bad as Biden is, I don't think Newsom can beat him. Newsom is too far to the left, and remember that the DNC still essentially controls what goes on in the primaries. That's why we saw Clinton take 2016, why we saw Biden take 2020, because they decided ahead of time who their candidate was going to be. And they know Newsom cannot win a general.
The party of democracy. Speaking of the primaries, CNN is increasingly pushing the idea of Hillary in 2024. Your thoughts?
Yeah, let's see her lose for a third time.
She'd go to a hospital, you know that.
She
was pretty close to the hospital the first time, or the second time, losing to Trump. She would basically be an IOL.
There is so much baggage that goes along with Hillary Clinton. You've got the Steele dossier. You've got the Jeffrey Epstein baggage now. She can't say she's running for women, thanks to Jeffrey Epstein. She's not in favor of any specific constituency except her. She would lose the primary, and she would bang Biden up so badly that there would be no chance for him to win the general. And,
personally, I don't think he's going to run.
I don't know if he's going to run or not. He keeps saying he is. I honestly think he thinks he's going to run.
Well, I think I'm president of the world, but that doesn't mean anything.
Right. But the fact of the matter is, the fact that they keep talking about primarying him is an indication that they are going to lose the presidency. Because historically, anytime the party challenges their own incumbent in a primary, the incumbent wins but loses the general.
On both sides, both Republican and
Democrat. This has happened
when Reagan
for
primaried Ford. Yep.
Yeah, it's happened for the Republicans. It's happened for the Democrats. That same thing will repeat itself. because the fact of the matter is the incumbent has to defend his record, and they get so banged up in a primary that they can't win.
One thing I wanted to, getting back to our first point about Roe versus Wade, just I think another thing I'd like you to comment, and I'm sure our listeners as well would like to see that or hear that. I think right now, if you take a snapshot, it did lay a couple gloves on the Republicans' hope for basically the red tsunami. But here's what I think, and you mentioned it before, that I think the trajectory is so negative that right now it had an impact or has an impact. But I think fast forwarding 3-4 months from now, things aren't getting better. They're going to get worse, and there is a chance that we'll be officially in a recession. I think that's going to trump, no pun intended, the Roe versus Wade decision. What do you think?
That's what most pundits believe, and that's what the Democratic operatives have been saying. Roe v. Wade is not going to have the legs to last until November, primarily because most of the states will have already passed their laws by the time that comes up. Now, the fact of the matter is, regardless of where you stand on Roe v. Wade, the laws are going to be passed. The states are going to say, yes, it's legal in this state. No, we're not going to allow it. Those states that don't allow it are going to face court challenges. They've already started. But this is the process that should have happened in 1973, right after Roe v. Wade was decided.
I agree with you, Dr. Lopkin, but my real question was, regardless of what happens, the states codifying or not, or challenges, I think the average person trying to buy a friggin' hot dog on July 4th, and then as it gets worse and worse and worse, is going to outdo any feelings on Roe versus Wade.
Oh, absolutely. The fact of the matter is, it's too far away for them to keep banging the drum until election day. And as I said earlier, when people go to the gas pumps every week, when they go to the grocery store every week, we had GDP come out today, the final revision for first quarter, and it wasn't down 1.4%, it was down 1.6%. So the economy is actually slowing down more than the Biden administration even wanted to admit. When
does the next report come out?
I'm not sure of the date, but
okay. I know it's coming quickly.
The next one will cover the second quarter, and it should come out. Let's see. The next month.
I think it should come out beginning of next month. Yeah, 6. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it should come out first week of July. Yeah,
I think so. Let's.
Yeah, I think that. So that'll be interesting. So we had the January 6th hearings, and I think this is really interesting because we talked about it off air.
Okay. I just pulled it up. The GDP for second quarter, the first estimate will come out July 28th.
Okay, so, I thought it was earlier.
So that's when we'll know if we're already in a recession. And quite frankly,
now I have to ask you this. Good point. Thanks for getting that. What does that do? It comes out and we're down 2.2%. Political impact. Does it get the discussion away from Roe versus Wade? Question number one.
It's going to take a lot of the air out of Roe v. Wade if we are already in a recession. It takes away almost every talking point that Biden has, because Biden has been yelling, "Oh, it's still a strong economy." Then he went, "Well, a recession's not inevitable." If we are already in a recession July 28th, that pulls the rug out of him. Now, I believe that the Democrats will actually try to heighten the hype about Roe v. Wade at that point, because they lose any talk about the economy. But when people are starting to get laid off, and let's face it, we've already started seeing layoffs, but when the jobs numbers start getting worse, unemployment starts going up because companies start cutting back because we're in a recession, there's nothing the Democrats can do about that. When you lose
Agreed.
your
And by the way,
job,
just real quick, I know I have several friends that are in major corporations. A couple of them have already been laid off, and the ones that have already been laid off, the companies they were laid off from are going for a second round, deeper and wider.
yeah, we're already starting to see that, and that's going to be done more and more often if we're actually in a recession. We've seen layoffs from tech companies. Netflix announced a second round of layoffs. They're starting to come when the unemployment rate starts ticking up, and inflation. Let's face it, inflation is not going to drop quickly, and it's certainly not going to drop fast enough for people to feel the effects by election day. And as interest rates go up, remember, that's going to affect people's mortgages. That's going to affect people's credit cards,
Cars.
your car loans. Yes, people are going to be feeling that more than anything else. And it's going to be very difficult for the Democrats to change the conversation away from the pain that they're feeling.
Agreed. It could have actually a counter effect. By the way, as we were discussing this recessionary, the possibility of a recession, the Fed Chairman Powell just came out and was on my computer, made a statement that inflation could cause a recession, meaning he's pretty already priming the pump for it.
Yes, and we've known that inflation could cause a recession. We've known that raising the interest rates could cause a recession because we've seen it before. And the fact that the last Fed rate was 75 basis points, which is a huge jump in at one time. I believe it's been 30 years since they did a hike that high, and they're talking about another hike at that same level. So the economy is not doing as well as Biden wants everybody to believe, and that's what people are going to be faced with over and over again.
And there's also the factor of incompetence or belief that things are just so screwed up. There's a lot of discussion. I'd like your comment on this, that flyers are bracing the headlines for more delays over the holidays and into the summer, even though obviously it's not directly Biden's fault, but it's just another thing is welcome back to the 70s when everything was effed up. Am I not correct in that?
No, you're
Flights
absolutely
canceled, increases. It's like, what the hell is going? Are we living in a third world country? What's going on? That's what
you're
people are going to start increasingly
you're
think.
absolutely right. And you're going to see the same responses that went on during the Carter administration. And in fact, Democratic pundits went crazy because in a speech, Kamala Harris actually used the word malaise. And the Democratic pundits went crazy, going, no, don't say that.
That's the last word you want to say. But it is interesting, as we discussed, that, pretty alarming that 78%, that should send chills down any Democratic pundit.
It should. And, something else that's going on within the Democratic Party that's going to blunt the effect of Roe v. Wade is that there is a growing group of people within the party. And I'm not talking about politicians, I'm talking about voters who have been very vocal over the last several days saying, wait a minute, you had 50 years to do something about this and you failed to do it. Why should we believe you're doing anything or you're going to do anything now? And that movement is actually growing in volume because the White House issued a statement saying they're doing everything in their power to make sure a woman's right to an abortion is protected. Well, they're also doing everything in their power to lower gas prices and to stop inflation. And then above and beyond all of that, They put Kamala Harris in charge of the effort.
Well, it's doomed to fail right then and there. There you go.
That's it. The Democrats have no faith that Kamala Harris can do anything. They have
Got the reverse Midas touch.
Yeah, they have. I'm not sure. It keeps flipping back and forth. I'm not sure who they have less faith in at this point, Harris or Biden, but it's pretty close. So they don't actually believe the Democrats are going to do anything about this.
Yeah, I agree with that. So speaking of Biden, and we talked on it's really good, comical fodder, but when he the pictures of him with the note card, he flipped it, he didn't arbitrarily flipped it the wrong way, basically telling him walk on the stage, don't shake anyone's hand, say hello. That's Weekends at Bernie's. That's not funny. That's like I've never seen anything. If it was a movie, Dr. Lopkin, back in 1990, the Dementia President, it was called. It was a B movie. You'd walk out. You'd say, this is ridiculous. Come on.
Yeah,
critics, Siskel and Ebert at the time would say, it's ridiculous.
It seems absolutely impossible that we have gotten to that point. I mean, seriously, he needs a note card to tell him, walk into the room. I mean, I can understand having a note card with bullet points reminding you of everything you want to say. We all do that when we speak publicly. But those stage directions were absolutely incredible. The fact that he had to be told when to sit down and when to stand up. Seriously, he's that far gone. I mean, and we do have to remember that this is the president that was pulled away from talking to people by the Easter Bunny.
By the Easter Bunny, yes.
So clearly, he's not firing on all thrusters. But this brings it to a new low.
I think he's actually getting worse. I really do believe that. I think he was never great when he got the job, when he was campaigning, sitting in his bunker, in his basement. But it gets increasingly worse. In fact, at the G7, Macron was talking about how he talked with the Saudis and talked with the Arab Emirates, and just a blank look on Biden's face. He just stood there and just said something. One of his handlers, they were trying to block the conversation so people couldn't record it, although they still did. And he just said, "Well, I got to go." Like, out of it. Like, instead of really? That happened? Oh, great. Maybe we can do something.
Well, no, because Macron told him that what he wanted from the Saudis was not possible. According to Macron's conversations, they cannot drill more. They're hitting their limits in terms of refining and drilling. And the point that Macron was trying to make was that the only country right now that is capable, or I should say countries, because there's two, the only countries right now that are capable of drilling enough oil to get us out of this mess are the United States and Canada. And Canada is limited in what they can do because of our infrastructure to get the natural gas and oil from Canada out to the ports. If he hadn't stopped pipelines, if the Democrats hadn't completely hindered our infrastructure for energy, we would be in a much better place. But now, and of course, Biden is willing to try almost everything except what we know will work, which is increase drilling, allow more refineries to be built.
Okay, but he's beholden because he's not in charge. I'm not just saying this for effect. I really believe he's 100% not in charge, and he's listening to people, and he's being unduly, disproportionately influenced by morons. And I'm not just saying that. I mean that literally. Morons like John Kerry that are climate ideologues and basically looking at this as an opportunity. Again, Kerry, who's basically a cad, came into the Senate worth nothing. Now he's a multi-billionaire because of two wives and flying on private jets. It's easy for him to say, let him eat cake or let him eat batteries.
Well, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, during the G7 meeting, stated that we should not be focusing on climate change. Our immediate concern should be world hunger because you have people starving right now rather than what might happen to the environment 20, 30 years down the road. Now, something else also recently came up that indicates Biden might have more in control, more control than most of us thought, because apparently Biden engineered a lot of the left agenda that he wanted to do, and he wanted to accomplish it for one reason and one reason only.
To
It's that
outdo Obama.
Yes, to outdo Obama. We all knew there was no love lost between
No,
Obama and Biden. And Biden
he used to
decided
make fun of Biden.
he wanted to make bigger changes than Obama could, make more of an impact than Obama could. And well, he did succeed. He's making a much bigger impact, but it's not a good one.
Oh no, he has succeeded where no one thought he could. I have to say, in my lifetime, 60 plus years on this planet, he has done more in less than 2 years than any president I've ever known. That is an accomplishment. More
it
in
is
2 years to destroy America than any president ever. He makes Carter look like George Washington.
And that's something else. Comedians have been coming out going, "We're so glad that Jimmy Carter is still alive to see this, so he knows he was not the worst president in his lifetime."
Oh, he's saying,
Uh,
Jimmy Carter saying, you know something? It really pays that I'm a religious person, which he is, because God has repaid me. And now I am no longer in the history books as the absolute worst president ever. And Biden's got some time to go. He's going to do more than outdo Carter.
You
He's
know,
got tons of time left.
we do have to give Biden credit where credit is due. During the campaign, he did say he was going to unite the country. He just didn't say he was going to unite the country against him. When you
I
have
mean, he,
when you have 78% of Democrats going, no, we're in the wrong direction, and I think the number with Republicans and independents is somewhere around 89%. Nobody has been able to unite the country on an issue like that.
he actually is the great uniter. I would
Yes,
agree. He didn't do it by choice, but like everything in his life, he just stumbled into it. Other issues, when you look at the January 6th hearings, I think, and we talked about this before our recording of this episode, and you know something, I've thought about it since, and I believe that with the January 6th bombshell of yesterday, talking about Trump being unhinged, if that gets refuted, which I believe it will, because the Secret Service people, I think, are going to testify, if it blows up, that could be the end of this committee.
Yeah, the Secret Service is talking with Congress. They are making arrangements to testify.
They're going to have to testify.
Because
you can't have them not testify.
Right, because yesterday's testimony appears to be completely fabricated. And one of the Secret Service people who has come forth and said, no, this is completely a lie, is the Secret Service agent that yesterday's testimony, the woman stated that's the person that told her. And they've come out and said, no, I never said anything like that. None of that actually happened. But you know what? I think the January 6th commission is actually going to benefit the Republicans.
And how is that?
Either A, the testimony is going to be completely discredited and the commission is going to be shown to be a sham, in which case people are going to turn against them, and even Democrats are going to go, no, you just tried to lie to us so that you could distract us from all of the crap that's going on.
And destroy Trump.
And then, yes, if it's a success, it will weaken Trump so that a stronger Republican candidate that does not have Trump's baggage will be able to win the 2024 primaries, and then Biden is gone.
Oh no, that's 100%.
So,
Actually, no. Dr. Lopkin, excellent point, has to be noted. It's a win-win. If, and it's very probable, this thing blows up because this bombshell testimony has to be it goes down as another shit show, meaning Adam Schiff and his patriarchs. And if it blows up, game over. And if it continues, bring it on, because I don't want Trump to win, to go ahead anyway. I'd rather have DeSantis against either Kamala or Joey would be an electrocution close to Reagan Carter. Because everything's nostalgic now. We're talking about the malaise of the 70s. How about the landslide of the 84 election?
And that's it. And the Republicans have to keep that in mind, because given how everything is going, there is a very strong chance that we will actually have that sort of election again, which means it's not just important to pick the right candidate for president. They need to pick the right candidate for vice president, because there's a strong possibility of 12 years of Republican rule after the damage that Biden has done, the same way we saw that with Reagan, Bush after Carter.
100%. No question about it. And the final discussion point, again, relates to subjects we've already gone over and discussed, but is worth noting. The Biden trip to Saudi Arabia, I think it's going to be another disaster. He's not going to get anything from it. But I think the way he's going to be treated is going to be interesting and blow up in his face. Like, there's no love lost between the Saudis and him. He called them out. Yeah, they're a great regime, no, but again, putting his foot in his mouth, okay, and then go back. It's like me calling you a asshole or whatever, and then say, hey, Dr. Lopkin, can you help me with my shrubbery around my house? It's like, really? So he's going to go. They might not even meet him at the airport. That is not beyond possible.
No, it's not beyond possible. There is a very strong possibility that they are going to rebuke him. On the international stage, Biden has shown he has no credibility. Democrats were yelling during the Trump administration, oh, the world thinks we're fools. They don't have any respect for us. My God, they had more respect for Trump than they did anything Biden has done. Biden has taken us down the road where the entire world, leadership is looking at us like we cannot believe this idiot is in charge. And when you talk about things like Ukraine, talk about global inflation, talk about energy, Biden tries to make it look like he's in charge. The G7 have been ignoring him. The European Union has been taking control of what's going on in Ukraine. Biden is basically a bank account for them. He's putting up money and they're making the decisions.
There's no question about it. And when you look at him, you can talk about Trump being an a-hole and all that. That's obvious. It's not even worth discussing, okay? We've already been through that. But when you looked at Trump at the G7, Macron, all of them wanted to be with him because he was a center of power. They wanted the picture next to Trump. You look at Biden during the G7 photo shoots, they're telling him, stay here. They must be shaking. First of all, they're going to take advantage of us. They love every minute of this. And they don't take him seriously. And getting back to Saudi Arabia, I'll throw this last final question at you, Doctor. Why wouldn't you do that if you're the Saudis? What do you got to lose? The Chinese did that to Biden. They didn't meet him at the – and if you meet him, have some lower-level secretary of trash collection meet him, smoking a cigarette.
That's pretty much what's going to happen. This is not going to go well for Biden diplomatically. And quite frankly, given his appearances on the world stage and his performances so far when he meets with foreign dignitaries, I think the best we can hope for is that he doesn't crap his pants.
And final thought on that, or my final little tidbit of info. The trip is Saudi Arabia and then Israel. Not that he really gives a shit about Israel because he's an Obama crony, and we all know how that went. But he knows they're not stupid. They know there's a good possibility the Saudi trip's not going to go well. So what do? You land in Israel, an ally of the United States. They're going to go out of their way not to embarrass this mental midget, and at least they'll save a little face. Am I not correct?
I don't even know that the Israelis are going to go out of their way not to embarrass him. They're furious with him. Between the bull that the squad has pulled that Biden has never criticized them for, and the fact that Biden is still trying to get a nuclear deal with Iran that Israel has been saying the entire time is not just a bad idea, but dangerous for Israel.
It's suicide. Yes, suicide for Israel.
I don't know that they're going to go out of their way not to embarrass him.
Dr. Lopkin, once again, you are correct. Here's what I think. They thought, because they didn't just go to Israel because they loved Israel, right? They thought, okay, we're going to get our ass handed to us by the Saudis. So we'll go to Israel, make nicey, but I believe in the end that's going to backfire as well. Now, Israel won't still meet them at the airport. It's not going to be, They do need the United States. But it's going to be they're not going to be having steak tartare. It'll be more like TV dinners.
Exactly. Yeah, they're still going to meet him. They'll still go through all the diplomatic niceties, but I'm sure they will make it patently clear that they're just going through the motions for the sake of diplomacy.
There you go. Well, Dr. Lopkin, another good episode of Carnivore Bites. And you can tell our listeners about their opportunity, and we're past our 200th episode to put in their input, correct?
Yes, if you want to make your voice heard about anything we're talking about, you can go to xvadio.com/connect. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know if you think we're off base. Let us know what topics are important to you. We would love to hear from you. And of course, you can hear every episode of Carnivore Radio at the Carnivore Radio website at xvadio.com/podcasts. The Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts, with the possible exception of YouTube.
Did they ban us last week?
They did not ban last week's episode, but they're so upset with us. They did give us another strike, and they had to go back a year and a half to January 2021 to find an episode that gave them an excuse.
Well, we're certainly getting in their heads, aren't we?
So, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Lopkin. Well, so if they do excommunicate us, we live on, though, don't we?
Oh, absolutely, because every other podcast platform has us.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Dr. Lopkin. Thank our listeners.
We'll see you next time.